Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Melbourne Traditionalists podcast, episode 50. I'm Mark Moncrief from Upon Hope, and first of all, I'd like to talk about Subscribestar. I signed up for Subscribestar in December, and I was accepted in January. And since then, I've had 9 people subscribe to me, and I have finally actually been able to receive some money from it, because you have to make, I think it's $120 before you can, or $140 before you can actually claim any money. And the second thing is you need to get 5 active members before people are automatically recharged. And what's been happening is I'll get to 5 and then one of them will 4 and then one of them will drop out, and I haven't been able to get for 5. And I finally got to 5 active members, and I have a number of people who are inactive subscribers. So if those people could resubscribe, and from now on, hopefully you won't need to resubscribe at all. And of course, if anybody is enjoying these podcasts or the other messages that I put up, your support would be very much appreciated. Now, what I want to talk about today is the coronavirus, the unending curse of 2020. And I'm in Melbourne, in Victoria, and we are currently about to be shut down again. I'm recording this on the 8th of July, so it's a Thursday, so this will go to air on Monday. And as of today, there are 106 people have died in Australia from coronavirus since 6 months ago, since February. 106 people, and we're still being told that we have to lock down, that people are only allowed to leave their home for 4 reasons. They're allowed to go to work or to study if they can't do it from home. They're allowed to go and buy food and other essentials. They're allowed to exercise, and there's one other reason, and I can't remember what it is. But yeah, so there's 4 reasons, and for every other reason, we have to remain at home. In February, well, there was some kind of sense to it. And we've had 6 months to find out that this is not the Spanish flu. This is not the Black Death. Yet our governments all around the world are continuing to pretend that this is a mass death event, that, thousands of people are going to die. As I said, 106 people have died in Australia. Not 1,006, not 10,600, not 10,600,000. It's just absurd the way that this has been allowed to continue on and on. I've got some news articles, and they're talking about in Victoria we've got 772 active coronavirus cases. 35 of those are in hospital, and 9 people are in intensive care. 9 people in intensive care. It's the same story over and over again, is that this whole thing is just so out of proportion, and people are accepting it. And so many people they're not taking it as the threat to our freedoms that it should be taken. It's not about health, because 106 dead is not, people die. And I've had people say to me, in In other countries, it's really, really bad. Well, out of what is it? Is it 7 billion or 8 billion people on the earth? We're nearly at 12 million cases, of which nearly 7 million have recovered. So we've got 550,000 dead, and that's if you accept the corona figures. The US has 3,100,000 cases, 130,000 dead. Brazil's second, 1.6 million cases, 70,000 or 66,000 dead. India, 700,000 cases, 20,000 dead. Russia, 700,000 cases, 10,000 dead. And Peru is the really one that jumps out. Peru and Chile, 309,000, 301,000, and they've had 10,000 and 6,000 respectively dead. But again, how much can you trust these figures? I don't know. You know, in Mexico, they've which is number 9 on the list, they've had a whole bunch die recently, nearly 900. But in other countries, it's just numbers. In fact, there's only 4 countries in the world that are reporting new cases. Jamaica's got 8. Australia's 125, which I think is under-calculated now. South Korea's 63. China's 7. And Mexico's 6,258. And again, this mass death event hasn't taken place, you know, and instead of the normal medical practices going on, we've had hospitals closed down. I have a relative who was scheduled to go into hospital, and the operation was cancelled. You know, they couldn't have their operation. Fortunately, this time it has not been shut down. They've decided that everyone who's been booked in to have an operation is allowed to have an operation. But of course, if someone new went into the doctor and they said, oh yeah, you need to have an operation, they'll say, well, no, unless it's life-threatening. So there's a lot of pain going out. It's not, like I've said before, it's not cost-free, this shutdown. The Federal Treasurer has said that every week that Victoria is shut down, $1 billion is lost from the economy. When the whole country was shut down, that was $4 billion, and Victoria is about a quarter of the economy, so that's where that figure comes from. So that's going to happen over the next 6 weeks. So there's $6 billion cut from the economy. And then we're getting pretty close to September, when all of these measures are supposed to be cut. The job seeker, the job keeper payments. Well, what happens then? Well, apparently the Prime Minister today is making some announcements. I don't know whether that will actually happen or not. But it's just on and on. You know, we're continuing to be told about how of course Victoria is cut off from South Australia. It's cut off from New South Wales. So now people need to have effectively a license to cross the border into New South Wales. There's a new internal border within Victoria. Most or all of Melbourne and one county, one shire in the country, just to the north of Melbourne, Mitchell Shire, has been is cut off, is locked down, as they've termed it. So people aren't supposed to be able to move around those. The Victorian Police Chief Commissioner Shane Patton has said, we're going to be there from midnight tonight. We're going to be checking people. We're going to be making sure they're adhering to those guidelines. If you don't have a reason to leave, you will be turned back around. If someone breaches those guidelines and leaves when they shouldn't, you'll receive an infringement. $1,652 for 109 dead in 6 months. You know, people keep talking about it's a lot of young people can get it, but a lot of young people have not got it. There's a case from the United States that I'm looking at now. A teenager has died from coronavirus after attending a party at her church with over 100 children who were not social distancing. Carson Lee Davis, 17, attended the social gathering on June 10, but less than 2 weeks later, she died on June 23rd while on life support. The teen, who is from Florida, had already battled several health conditions in her short life, according to a report by the local medical examiner, including cancer and a rare autoimmune disorder called obstacolosis mycocolonus syndrome, or OMS. People like that shouldn't be out and about, and probably the same for people in their 80s and over. But for everybody else, this is a massive, massive overreaction. The Premier in Victoria, Dan Andrews, has said, this is a quote, "A small number have come from," and he means the Black Lives Matter rally, "no one got it at the rally. There are 4 people that attended the rally that have had it. Police were pretty clear. I was crystal clear. Don't protest. Unless you are going to lock up 10,000 people, think about the close contact involved with that." Well, other people are being threatened with fines, and some people have been given fines, but 10,000 people protest, and there's no comeback at all. They're just allowed to do it. On a related note to the Black Lives Matter, I've had someone tell me about how on the day that it took place, they were looking at new houses, and the salesman was there, and he says, "Oh, isn't it so wonderful that so many people turned out for the rally?" And they're like, "No, it's not." And they're like, here we are looking at buying a house, probably $500,000 worth, and they get into a political conversation. When did this become acceptable? That's a great question. Well, it seems that the answer is 2020. That's when it became acceptable, because everywhere we look, we have this political problem, this political issue all around our lives. Dan Andrews also shut down not just Melbourne, but he locked down some high-rise towers. Now, these are Housing Commission, and they're mostly immigrants. And basically, they're completely shut down. They can't leave even to get food. So food has to be delivered to them. That's pretty extreme. Yeah. So apparently there's been a bit of a fracas there, where there was a charity delivering food. So people are getting fed and they're getting supplies, but they can't actually leave to go out. They can't even exercise. It's quite amazing. And the police have said that they have 500 police officers on every shift. So that's 1,500 police officers over the course of a day, just looking after these high-rise towers. And anyway, so this delivery van came along, and someone else tried to force their way in, and no one's allowed to go in. No one's allowed to come out, except for these very specialised people. And he got into a altercation with the police, and they had him on the ground, and then he started saying, "Oh, I can't breathe, and it's all pantomime. But these are the kinds of things that are going on. And like everywhere else, we've had people advocating for wearing masks. So the Federal Health Minister has said that everyone in Australia should be wearing masks. And, it's like the joke that I keep seeing on Facebook, wearing masks now is like wearing a condom at the baby shower. It's, it's well past. It's over. But, at the same time, these people are still talking about a pandemic. There is no pandemic. It's an absurd word to use for what we have. as I said, there are some people who this is very serious, and they have to be looked after. But for everybody else, it's not. It's really, really ridiculous. And again, what aren't they telling us? I've asked this many times before. Why is it that we keep coming back to this point where the government and the medical profession are talking about this in the most extreme terms, and yet that's not the reality on the ground? I said before, there was 130,000 dead in the United States. That's in a country of 330 million people. So, when things happen, it happens in large numbers. And people take that out of context. But this is all so extreme. And I must admit, I'm thoroughly sick of it. And I'm sick of the lies, just the constant lies. And I'm also sick of ordinary people not just taking it. It's just I'm finding it very hard to cope with, I guess. It's just it's all a bit too much. Although I probably should be happy with the shutdown. After all, that is what I predicted at the start of this panic, that as we were entering our flu season, we would actually be stop start all year. And so I guess that's exactly what's been proven to be the case. I was reading an article earlier this week about cruise ships, and of course the entire cruise ship industry has come to a stop. But because of the travel restrictions that are around the world, a lot of people haven't been able to get home. So some people have been at sea for 110 plus days. That's just outrageous. And, so some countries like Mauritius, which is an island in the Indian Ocean, got over 1 million people there. So it's quite a big island. But, a lot of people from there work at sea and they can't go home because the Mauritius government won't take them in. It's amazing. And I actually found out that a lot of Australians who have been working on cruise ships, mostly as entertainers, also had problems getting home, and most of them have arrived back in late May. But there are still people, potentially Australians, still stuck at sea. And I saw a radar image of all these ships, just amazing, just all these massive ocean liners just basically parked at sea and left there. And some of them have crews and some of them don't, and some of them have the barest of skeleton crews, and some of them are filled with people because they're filled with people who work for the cruise ship companies. And of course, the airliners are all, well, mostly shut down. I live over a flight path and I haven't noticed many aircraft. I've heard a few, but not that many. Mostly I hear the police helicopter, which is not an uncommon thing to hear in my area. But I was pretty amazed when I read about 110 days at sea. That's a long time to be out at sea, and a lot of these people aren't getting paid because they're not working. That would be a pretty hard life. Well, I guess there's only so many ways I can say that this is all ridiculous. So I think even though it's only 20 minutes in, I think I might end the podcast here, and hopefully next week I'll have a little bit longer to make up for it. All right, thank you very much. Remember, if you want to support me, you can do that on Subscribestar, and you look after yourself and have a good week. Bye bye, everyone.